Hey, hey. Well, we're not live. We had some more internet difficulties, but that's okay. I am Michelle Housebeck, and I have Gina Bongiovi, a managing partner with Bongiovi Law Firm, with me this morning. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Cheers to your coffee.
Yeah, necessary this morning based on 3 conversations I've already had.
And it's only 9 a.m.
And it's only 9 a.m. I'm like, coffee must be, I need some caffeine.
I've been consuming it like all day long lately. I'm sure that's not healthy.
Like 3 cups a day, and then I was like, why can't I sleep?
I need to stop. Oh, well, would you like to tell us a little bit about just yourself first, and then we'll dive into some fun business law and what your law firm helps with?
Sure. So I guess a little bit about me. So I grew up here in Las Vegas. I went to UNLV. I got a marketing degree. Really wanted to make a career out of marketing like you have. There are days I'm a little envious of you, but couldn't find a job at all in this town. And I didn't really know how to network. I had a network. I just didn't really know how to, reach out to people and all that. So I ended up going back to school, and it was really a toss-up between going to law school and getting an MBA. And so I ended up going to law school, which was kind of a wrong turn at Albuquerque. And then I was midway through law school, and I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And so then I went and got an MBA after all. And in the MBA program, had an opportunity to start a business, which started as a marketing company and then blossomed kind of against my will into a modeling agency. And then I had, as a business owner, needed some legal advice. So having grown up here, I went to somebody who also grew up here, was an attorney, had been practicing for like 25 years. I said, here's my situation. I need a referral to an attorney. And he sent me to the absolute wrong attorney. It would be like going to a podiatrist with a toothache. Like, this is weird. And the guy was like super, he had, at the time, which was like 15 years ago, like $600 or $700 an hour. And like, it was a lot.
Whoa.
And so I started calling people I knew who had small businesses. And I said, who do you go to for legal advice? And it was, my, cousin's a paralegal in Florida, or I go to the guy that handled my divorce, or, my, whoever got me out of, a DUI or whatever. There didn't seem to be anybody focusing on at least the small businesses. And it was either a choice between prepaid legal, which is now Legal Shield, or you had somebody on retainer, but they were so expensive that you wouldn't ever call. So you didn't get the benefit of the advice anyway.
Right.
So I saw this big gap in the market, being one of the clients, potential clients for that gap. And so I started a law firm anyway, kind of in parallel with the marketing company was continuing to grow. And I started the law firm in July of 2008, serving only small businesses in Las Vegas.
Fantastic timing. No.
Solid choice. It's kind of like trying to buy a house in a pandemic.
What are you talking about?
But the interest rates are on point.
Yes.
So, so I started the law firm, and I focused only on, working with small businesses, which was really frustrating because, when you go into a networking event and you're like, hey, I'm an attorney and I work with businesses. And I swear to God, everybody who came up to me at those networking events was like, I need you. I have to file for divorce, or I have to file bankruptcy. It was 2008. Everybody was filing bankruptcy. And I was like, I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. And I really did stick to it. And I'm glad I did.
Mm-hmm.
I met an attorney several conferences ago, and he said, I said, what kind of law do you practice? And he said, threshold law. And I said, what the hell is threshold law? He said, anything that comes over the threshold, I'll do.
So that would be a jack of all trades, master of none.
That's exactly right. And a malpractice lawsuit waiting to happen.
Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting too. I was talking on the phone before our interview, and they asked me who I was interviewing this morning, and I told them about you, and they said, oh, I need a patent and trademark. And I said, nope, doesn't do that. So.
Well, that's the thing. Like we do trademarks, and we don't do patents. But it's funny because it's hard, I think, for a lot of it's kind of, because when you start a business, it's not a foregone conclusion you're going to hire an attorney. If you need to file for divorce, if you file bankruptcy, if you get a DUI, like, the first call you're making is to an attorney, but not so with a business. So I had a lot of challenges with kind of educating people. I still do, you know, like educating as to why you call us before the shit hits the fan. Pardon me for, did I curse on this? I can curse.
You can.
I'm like, you wouldn't have asked me to come on here. Or you would have warned me, or you would have a bleep button. So
hello, girl.
Like, yeah, it's really trying to educate as to why we can be proactive. And that's really how we try to operate, is not to resolve problems after they arise, is to avoid them in the first place.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's, you know, even in the marketing world too, you know, I mean, different industries, but I run into that a lot too. Like, uh-oh, I need to grow my business. Let's go now. And it's like, okay, we have to do some before the shit hits the fan work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you know, that ramp up period. And I understand how frustrating it is. Like, I had a bunch of people at one point in time, only 2 months ago, I had like 6 people who wanted to sell their business. And I'm not a business broker, but they may have had a buyer. They had a couple buyers they were talking to. And they're like, well, they keep reducing the purchase price. And I'm like, because your books are not in order, because what they're finding and what they're looking at is not good.
mm-hmm.
Your entity is in default, your books are not in order, your contracts are all expiring, and so they want everything to be fixed. Like, I wave a magic wand and make sure that they get the money that they need out of the business. And I'm like, this is a 3, 4, 5 year long process to really do it right. And so to your point about marketing, that is not something, you don't just flip a switch and suddenly, you know, people are beating down your door trying to do business with you.
No. I mean, we're your magic wand. We both have them, right?
I mean, mine's definitely in the shop, and it has been for many years. But it's hard too, because when you're anytime, and that's what I tell all my service provider clients, is like, you're going to have struggles because people don't, it's like magic mystery, because they don't really understand what we do, because what we deliver is so intangible. Like, you can deliver, you know, a logo, like you can deliver something somebody puts their hands on, but it's not, it's all, that is such a like ancillary part of the bigger picture of like their strategic plan and their marketing and their message and their identity and things like that. And it's hard when it's abstract to really communicate that value.
Right. Well, on that note, why don't you tell us what it is that you do specialize in, so we know. And by the way, since you do trademarks, I misspoke earlier. So I have one that I need you to talk to.
So we serve as a kind of outside counsel. So imagine a legal team in a big, you know, Fortune 500 company. We provide those services to businesses that don't have an in-house legal team, kind of on an as-needed basis. So you're not hiring us, like, we're not salaried and everything. It's basically an outsourced general counsel, or outsourced, the term is now CLO, Chief Legal Officer role. So in like a brass tax sense, we will help people like form their entities and get their proper licensing and handle all their contracts and their trademarks, and if they have employees and independent contractors, and handle business sales, which is commonly called mergers and acquisitions law. You know, helping people wind their businesses down. Kind of, we're like broadly business stuff. Now, patents are a different thing, because you have to sit for a completely different bar exam for that. And have an engineering degree, which I very much do not have. Yeah, like some of that stuff, some of the examples, obviously without giving clients away, is, you know, I have a client who she's got 2 e-commerce businesses, and neither one of them is licensed properly. So we're correcting all of that for her. I have a client who moved here from Texas, who has a business that he really needs to be registered here because he doesn't do business anymore in Texas. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to do that, because his old CPA that was supposed to maintain his Texas entity didn't. And so now we can't even revive that old entity. We have to, which means he's losing all the history with his EIN.
Right.
And then I have guys that they're a service consulting, like an engineering consulting business, and we're getting them all licensed and handling their customer contracts. Then we have a client who's a cosmetic dentist, and he's got a ton of trademarks that we're maintaining and making sure that he's using. And we reviewed a lot of commercial leases, especially now that, people are trying to invoke their force majeure clauses, which typically apply in this situation, unfortunately. So kind of that's on my to-do list right now.
So you really don't have a specific industry either. It's falling into the realm of, if you don't have legal counsel, we're your go-to for
we're your go-to. And what we've done is, a lot of times, if you need, let's say you own a tavern and you're dealing with gaming issues, typically you would need to go with a large firm who has somebody who specializes in gaming in the office. And so we kind of call ourselves, we have the knowledge of like a football field's breadth, like 2 feet deep. And so if we have something that's more specialized, rather than send the client to somebody else, or rather than just like hire somebody else in the firm and then create this big behemoth firm, which doesn't really appeal to me, we've kind of bolted on these outside firms. So if I have a really particular fussy construction law question, I have a construction law firm, that's all they do, on retainer. And then I am their client, so I can get the answer for my client. So we kind of, we try to be full service without the full service like price tag.
Right. No, that's great. And that's a great collaboration too. I do similar as well, work with other colleagues, vendors,
sure,
other services. So it doesn't have to all sit under one roof, because then obviously that does drive the price tag up. And it's a lot more management.
Girl, don't get me started.
Adult babysitting. Right. So I know that you're pretty much set up virtually even before any of this world we live in now happened. Has anything changed for you on how you service your clients, really?
A lot of it is, like you said, we started off kind of, working virtually, again, to keep the overhead low. And then it became more accepted among our clients. Like, obviously we're not going to land, say, MGM as a client to say, right, hey, we work virtually, but those aren't the clients we're going after. And over time, all of our business clients are starting to go, hey, this is a really great option. Now the entire world is revisiting this whole concept of working virtually. And so it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. But as far as how we've differed in, trying to help our clients, is we've really tried to become and remain educated on specifically like the loans and financial support that's out there. Mm-hmm. I think I spent like 2 weeks on every single webinar that the SBA did, and every single webinar that the state of Nevada did, and every single webinar the chamber did. And I was like, okay, at some point I have to do some work that people are actually paying me for. So I think a lot of it was, we kind of turned into a little bit like therapists, because we did have a lot of clients who were panicking and had every reason to panic. But now everybody seems to have gotten over, at least everybody in my world, and I'd be interested to hear about your world too, that it seems like everybody has kind of settled in a little bit to what we're doing now. And now they're like, okay, what can I do? Like what we were talking about earlier, are we changing our marketing strategy? Is there a different way we can approach this? Everybody seems to be really resilient and have been really adaptable, which I'm kind of surprised by. Like the clients that I have that legitimately were not permitted to continue operating in the way they did, really like took it on themselves, and they're like, we're going to figure out how to make this work. And then they would do curbside delivery and pick up, like, people got really creative, which was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I've seen that. I mean, from my own clients to friends to, big brands all over the place. I've been reading too a lot about the whole marketing arena and brand strategy, and people are getting really creative. It's fun to see. I mean, it's the silver lining, right, that comes out of a crappy situation. And there's some new business models, I think, that can develop out of it to better run your business and also better serve your clients possibly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the people or the industries that are going to have a much harder time adapting to whatever this new normal is like those large behemoth companies who don't have the agility to shift like that. So if you have like law firms are a great example. You have, I mean, we saw some of the largest law firms in this city or in this state just evaporate overnight, seemingly overnight, because they weren't prepared for changes in the marketplace, or they got out over their skis and thought that, if they establish in a new market, if we build it, they will come. And that's not how it works anymore. Clients wield way more power than they used to, but law firms are still structured in such a way that the law firms kind of dictate the hourly rate and things like that. And that's not, with the advent of things like LegalZoom, which I would strongly argue is not a substitute. But it's really kind of forced us, and I'm sure you, like Vistaprint and 99 Designs and those robots, and to really prove, it's kind of forced all of us to up our game and prove our value and show why you really want a human being working on your stuff rather than a robot.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I battle with that too. I think a lot of industries do battle with now, even the real estate market. You have the Rocket Mortgage, and you got Zillow and all these other places. It does make us reevaluate. And you said it perfectly. Prove why a human involved in whatever the transaction is beneficial. Yeah.
As much as artificial intelligence may advance, it's really not. I mean, the day that it replaces the human brain, I don't think is ever going to come.
No. And that would be really sad and scary as hell if it ever.
I hope I'm on if that happens.
Me too. So let's go back to the SBA loans real quick, because you were sending out, writing your blog, sending out your newsletter, and I found it super, super helpful. That's actually what prompted me to say, hey, we got to get on this interview. And I know things have been changing, pretty much on a daily basis. So can you give us an update for today where that is at?
Yeah. So so do you want like a summary of both programs as long as I'm talking about it?
Yep.
So there's two different of the SBA programs. There's really two different ones. There's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is termed the EIDL for the acronym. Okay. And then there's the Paycheck Protection Program, which is a subset of the CARES Act.
Okay.
So the Economic Injury Disaster Loan is something that's always existed. We here in Las Vegas don't really know about it because we don't really have natural disasters, but definitely people in Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina know that EIDL process inside and out. So they originally started the EIDL loan, and it's truly a loan. It's a 30-year amortization at 3.75% interest for for-profit companies or 2.75% interest for nonprofit companies. Okay. So they released their first application in late March. I mean, the application was kind of already there, but specifically for this was kind of late March. And it was like, took you 5 or 6 hours to fill out. And I know because I did it. Not only because my computer kept crashing because so many people were applying, but also because they were requiring so much supporting documentation that you have to like go upload this and upload that, and the computer kept crashing and the whole thing. Then about 2 weeks later, they came out with a streamlined application. And with that streamlined application, they asked everybody who had spent the 5 or 6 hours applying to reapply in this streamlined application that took me literally from my car to the entrance to the grocery store to fill out on my phone. So when I say streamlined, I mean streamlined.
That's the one I applied for when it was streamlined.
Yeah, smart girl.
Yeah.
That other one, I was like, I'm making dinner, I'm walking around trying to do the dishes, and I'm coming back, I'm hitting refresh, and I'm getting the spinning beach ball, and I'm like, is it cocktail 30 yet? Because if I don't start drinking, I'm gonna be on the news. So, and then with the streamlined application, you had the option of asking for a $10,000 advance that would have purportedly been forgivable. Okay. No, not forgiven, but forgivable. So then they realized, oh, we don't have that much money. So we're going to reduce that to $1,000 per employee. And I know very few people at this point in time, and that application was filed, I don't know if I already said it, directly with the SBA. Now, I only know of like a handful of people personally who have received that money.
I actually did get that for myself.
You did get that. Okay, so you got
Yeah, zero communication just showed up in my bank account. I had to Google what the transaction was.
Yeah.
Like,
Like Will, you remember Will, the website, he
yeah.
got his yesterday, my financial advisor got hers last week. I have not seen mine.
Okay.
So that's the EIDL loan. The Paycheck Protection Program, like I said, is a program within that CARES Act that had, the reason it took so long is because just like every bill that's passed in Washington, there had to be all sorts of other shit put into it. So that got passed. That is something that also starts out as a loan. It's forgivable if you use the funds for payroll expenses or occupancy expenses, at least 75% of whatever you get.
Okay.
And hang on. I forgot something about the EIDL loans. Let me go back. God, I was trying not to do that. So the EIDL loan, the amount you get, because this was on, I just got an email from somebody in New York on this morning. The amount you get in the EIDL loan is not, they don't ask you, if you notice when you filled out that application, they didn't ask you how much money you needed or wanted. It was an algorithm that nobody shared that was between like your gross revenues, your number of employees, and your cost of goods sold. I don't know how those three entered into the formula or what the hell happened with that, but that's what they were basing that amount on.
Okay.
So over on the Paycheck Protection side, that's something you apply to your bank. And so those applications were supposed to drop April 3rd. A lot of banks, because the SBA, so it's just like any other SBA loan. You apply to your bank, but your bank has to also, like the SBA also has to approve the loan. The bank has to approve the loan. So you have sort of two levels of approval. And then the bank is really sticking its neck out for you. And this is what I got really frustrated with a lot of people, because they're like, I don't understand why they're not just giving me the money. And I said, because it's a loan. And if you've ever applied for an SBA loan before, the fact that they've whittled this down to a 2-page application means you shouldn't bitch. Like, calm down. So it just, I mean, I was like, listen, this is your sense of entitlement. Like the fact that they're even doing this for us is remarkable.
Right.
Because these federal agencies are not known for their speed or their agility. And they came together and cranked this shit out. And they processed as many applications in 14 days, the SBA did, as they had in 14 years.
What?
Yes.
Whoa.
They got 2 million applications for the Paycheck Protection Program. 2 million in 2 days.
Oh, I just got chills. That's
So if you think about how many, like, it's bananas how much work that I'm
I can't even fathom that. Seriously, that's insanity.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So on the Paycheck Protection side, and then people were getting impatient with their banks because the banks had to, so the SBA, the bank had to create their application based on what the SBA application was. And the SBA wasn't finalizing its application until literally, I think it was like Thursday at 2 in the morning. Well, Friday at 2 in the morning. And then those applications were supposed to go live on that you can apply to your bank like Friday at noon. So thanks for the lead time. So once the bank got their information together, and I was keeping in touch with lots of different advisors who bank with different banks. Like I bank with Nevada State. I have somebody else that banks with Meadows, somebody else that banks with Bank of Nevada, somebody at Chase, somebody at Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo was basically like, we're not doing anything. We're not helping you at all. Now, in fairness, my argument, I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. But anyway, so so you would apply to your bank, and then they only had a certain amount. Now, I'm not sure about this. I think it's one of two things. Either the bank was only allocated a certain amount to lend,
Right.
or the amount, well, it's probably both, because banks can only, they have to maintain certain ratios in order to keep in good standing with the FDIC, who insures the bank against closures,
Right.
insures your deposits against banks that are closing. So Wells Fargo, everybody is like setting Wells Fargo on fire, which may be warranted. Like I've never been a fan of Wells Fargo. I was a customer at one point, but also I think they may have just already been overextended on that. And so they didn't have the luxury of, you know, lending more money, because what everybody seems to lose sight of is even though the PPP is forgivable, the bank still has to look at that like a loan.
Right. That makes
Even so that's a 2-year repayment period with a 6-month payment deferral, and that's at 1% interest. So what everybody seems to be forgetting is that it really truly is a loan. And if you have this flood of people who are all trying to borrow this money from you as a bank, especially the community banks that seem to get more love than the major banks, they have to be really careful about that.
right.
So that happened, 2 weeks ago. And then by the time it was open, so it was first open for businesses, and then it was open for self-employeds and 1099 contractors. And by that time, the money was like
Gone.
So then they signed legislation in last week that was going to replenish those coffers. And then it opened on Monday, and then the SBA website like almost immediately crashed. So bankers that they had to submit through the website couldn't get the information in. So last I heard, there is still money, but the logistics of getting it are, those are falling off the bus. Lots of other stuff that they're like, the state of Nevada has a layoff aversion program, and I don't even know how you apply for that. Salesforce had a $10,000 grant that you had to be eligible for. So you had to be in business since at least 2018, no more than $100,000 in debt, at least 2 employees. You couldn't have anybody in your family who was related to anybody who works at Salesforce, blah, blah, blah. So I checked all of the boxes for eligibility. So I applied. They gave me the questionnaire. Are you like, fill out this questionnaire to see if you're eligible? And they're like, you're not eligible. And I was like, I'm not. I go back to the eligibility things, and I was like, check. Okay, whatever.
It's kind of like the Wild West a little bit.
It's like the Wild West. And it's a little like, I'm trying to think of the movie where you like go to say, or it's almost like one of those dreams where you go to like have a conversation with somebody and they answer you back as if they're having a completely separate conversation. You're like, yes. What did you just say? What did you hear me say?
Wait a minute.
Please explain.
Please explain. Yeah, with the SBA too, I went to go apply after the house had closed, just in case I got thrown back into underwriting, or for the Paycheck protection, and it was like, sorry, like there's no fund in so many words.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the SBA or with the Paycheck protection, we can still apply for that, or there's funds again. It's right. Just there's some technical issues as far as getting it actually submitted because of the amount of people, I'm assuming, that are doing it.
Well, and I think it's more because I think SBA tried to take that time in between to come up with a way for the banks. You still apply through your bank for PPP, and then the banks have to submit that information through the SBA. And I think it's that bank connection to the SBA that's crashing.
Okay. So if you're in need of that PPP, then obviously go see the bank and start working the loan process there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are a lot of people who unfortunately didn't really realize how important their banking relationship was. It was just sort of a set it and forget it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But there's it's a really important relationship, and bankers are really underestimated in how many things they can help you with in your business. And so a lot of my clients are revisiting their banking relationship. And I have a Google Doc that I can send you, or that I've posted on Facebook, where I reached out to all my banking relationships. Now I only bank at one, but I have relationships with all these for the benefit of my clients. And I was like, hey, are you taking new customers? Are you continuing to, accept these applications for PPP? Is there anything that so I'm keeping that document updated from everybody from Nevada State to Bank of Nevada to Meadows to, US Bank and Chase and City National. Like, here's all the information so you can try to, even if you want to move your money somewhere else, there's people who are willing to take it.
That would be awesome if you can.
Yeah, I'll send
share that. Okay, thank you. That's a lot of information, and for you to have that in your head and be able to sift through it, it's so helpful. Because, when you go on those websites, it changes daily, and what you hear versus what's real, I know all of us are just like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So long story short, if you need the PPP, go see your bank. Gina will share her research that she's kept up to date with what banks are doing what. As far as the disaster loan goes, is it EIDL?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Is that still viable right now as well?
it is still viable. I think it's just taking a much longer time for them to process, because like you said, I think the only money that's come through on that is the reduced amount of the advance. The original $10,000 is now $1,000 per employee. So I think they're getting that money out, but
Okay.
it's definitely like that started, and then the paycheck protection thing started, and then the EIDL is like coming. That's taking longer than the paycheck protection.
Right. Well, and when it first came out, you couldn't apply for both, or you couldn't use both, is how I understood it. And then they said, oh, you can.
Yeah, that was another thing that changed midstream. So originally, and I sent out a newsletter on this, and then like, I don't know, 12 hours after the newsletter went out, they freaking changed the rule. So now I look like an idiot. But basically, up until the point that the streamlined application, up until the point that the applications open for PPP, which was April 3rd, you could apply for both. And then once the PPP thing, you had to choose one or the other. So then I wrote a whole article on like, how do you decide which one you should choose? And if you've laid off all your employees and you don't have any work, then do the EIDL one, like this whole thing. And then I think by Monday or Tuesday of the following week, they were like, okay, just kidding, you can apply for both.
You're like,
I got enough control over my website that I'm like, go in, select post, delete.
right. That's not relevant anymore.
Just have like red lines through all the, like, this doesn't apply, this is what's replaced. That would have been really funny if I had done that.
You would.
Like a track changes on, just to see.
See attached addendum here. Never mind, just read this one.
Card. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and then we were on a webinar and the SBA director here, and I feel for the guy, because he's from the East Coast, so he kind of like doesn't abide rules, and so he runs through this whole thing all over again. And I'm exhausted, but I'm only attending this, and he's giving these over and over again. And then I'm watching the questions come up in the chat box, and they're all the same. Like, it's all the stuff that he's already answered. And he's starting to get really pissed off about it. And he was like, come on, people.
Pay attention.
They almost became entertainment for me, because it was just like watching, like, when is he going to lose his shit on this webinar?
Right.
But some of the information that he was getting and therefore giving was not accurate. Like, originally he was saying that unless you had W-2 income,
right,
like it had to be an LLC, taxes and S corp, and paying yourself through a W-2 to get the paycheck protection. And if you were paying yourself just like if you were a partnership in a K-1, or you were getting, just pulling out owner draws or distributions, that didn't count. And then I had a CPA friend of mine who was like, well, the American Society of CPAs, or whatever the national organization is, they're like, well, this is actually, that's not correct, this is correct, which meant that I had to talk many clients off the ledge. I had one client like calling and basically almost in tears, and I'm like, I didn't write the rules for this program, right?
We're gonna get through this together.
Like, I'm working with the same information you are. Please don't yell at me.
Right, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not even the messenger. I'm trying to translate. I'm a translator.
Yeah, I'm the translator.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. I mean, it's helpful just to have a conversation about it too. And I know you've read so much, and just have it digested down into, comprehensible
Right.
statements. So what can we do for you? Who are you wanting to be introduced to? Who are you looking for? Who's kind of your bread and butter, your sweet spot, as far as who you like to work with?
We love our mom and pops. We love our, middle market businesses. I think where we provide the greatest value is for businesses that kind of have a lot going on, and we have a handful, and we limit the number that we have, a handful of businesses on like a monthly retainer, where we really truly are their outside counsel. So where it's not this one-off, hey, they call me, every year, 6 months or a year when they need a new contract. It's like we check in every month, and we can get ahead of a lot of problems. So we have people like in healthcare. We've got an air medical transport business, which is super interesting. We have some engineering consultants, like we have, and so we kind of have a wide variety. We have a food service company,
Okay.
like a restaurant on that plan. So those are the clients that we feel we bring the greatest value to because we're in closer contact with them.
Right.
But it tends to be the, you know, you have at least 10 employees, you have a commercial space, you have like a lot of moving pieces to your business.
Okay.
So those are
Okay.
Shush,
That
shush.
makes sense. Is that your puppy?
He's about to, yeah. Almost got there.
He's like, Mom. All right. Well, we're almost done here. A ton of fantastic information. But I do want to end on your fun fact because Gina Bongiovi, what a last name. Tell us your fun fact.
So supposedly, and I have not had an opportunity to confirm, although I got really close, is that I am distantly related to the singer Jon Bon Jovi. And I know this because, so I have a family member that told me we were distant cousins. That family member's credibility may be in question on other things. So I wanted an opportunity to like verify that because like my father was from New Jersey, Jon Bon Jovi's from New Jersey. There's lots of connections there. And then I went, my friend Patty was good friends with Ryan Starr, who won Rockstar Supernova. Remember that reality show? It was like American Idol, but for like rock stars. He was opening for Jon Bon Jovi here in Vegas, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago. And so because she was friends with Ryan Starr, we got to go to the green room. And I'm like, I am one green room away from verifying this. And I never got to do it. And even Ryan Starr was like, I don't believe you. And I showed him my ID. I was like, here it says. He goes, holy shit. I never had it verified. And now I can't get free concert tickets, but it's a fun thing to think about.
Have you ever done like Ancestry or like those 23andMe's? I wonder if he's on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I joke about that because I'm like, I don't like the people I know I'm related to, so I don't want to find out about the people I don't know I'm related to.
That's just opening a can of worms.
It really is opening a can of worms. I'm like, find me like an orphan, we're good.
Well, I'm just gonna go with you are related to him because that's just fun.
Although I'm not musically inclined at all, so maybe it's just concentrated in one side of the family.
Exactly. He was the black sheep of the family in that arena.
Right.
Right.
That poor baby.
I know. Poor thing. All right. So how can we get a hold of you?
So we're at bonjovilaw.com, and that's spelled like not, I wish like the singer because it's way easier, but it's BONGIOVI law.com or 702-485-1200. Or I'm Lawyer Gina on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty findable.
Yep. Gina's very findable. You can also reach out here, on the post or just let me know. I have her deets. All right. Thank you so much for being here today and for the fantastic plethora of information. It does help to clarify, what the hell we're supposed to be doing in that arena.
Well, thanks for having me. It was really good catching up.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone, have a good day, and I'll see you soon.